Well, let's get started. Tonight I thought it would be fun if we just hung out around a campfire together. This particular campfire I made on my camping trip a while back. I think the video of my hike on that trip will have already been posted by now. But this campfire I made one evening, cooked some supper over it, and then I decided that it would be really too good to waste, I guess. So I propped up my camera and went for a walk with the puppy. I'll admit it's not the best video of a fire, but it's the best I could do at that time, and I figured I would still use it. But I wanted to tell you, while we were just sitting here around a fire together, about my earliest memory of a camping trip. May not have been my first camping trip, but it's certainly the one I remember as the first. I think I was around 3 or 4 years old. My dad came and picked me up early from daycare, and we drove out to a place called California Lake. It's a very, very swampy place west of where I grew up. It's on the west side of Florida, very close to the Swanee River. We camped at a spot just in the woods. We had no electricity, no running water, certainly no bathrooms. It's just a tent, an old tent that my mom and dad had bought a few years before. Our first night, we weren't very fancy. We had bologna and cheese sandwiches. My dad was never great at meal prepping. He just always went for the quickest and the easiest thing. But we enjoyed our sandwiches and chips at a campfire really similar to this one. I'm sure my dad told me a story or two before we went to bed. But the first night was just very simple, getting the camp set up and then heading on to sleep. Thinking back on it now, I'm sure it was really early when we went to bed, just because of the time of year and it getting dark very early. But there's nothing else to do. And being young, I'm sure that I was pretty close to my bedtime anyways. The next morning, my dad made us buttered toast over the fire, which I thought was just the tastiest thing. The little bit of smoke flavor in the bread. But after breakfast, my dad started getting our little 12-foot John boat ready for a fishing trip out on the lake. We didn't have a motor. My dad just paddled us around. I was too young to really even attempt at paddling, but it felt like we went miles and miles across the lake. But I'm certain it couldn't have been more than a few hundred yards, really. But we had a great time. Even at that young, I was able to do a decent job at fishing. I could at least bait my own hook. I really don't remember at all what we caught or how many. Knowing what I know about fish and where they're at in Florida, I could make some decent guesses as to what we caught that day. But really and truly, I don't remember. We did keep a couple to take back to camp with us for our supper. But other than that, I don't remember too much about the fishing other than just the memories of it being a great, great time. But that evening, my dad dusted and fried up our fish. We may have had some baked beans with it, but they would have just been from a can heated up next to the fire. But one thing I can guarantee you is that at least from memory, was one of the best meals I've ever had, probably because we were just hungry. But it was very, very good. It had really been a perfect day for the two of us. Nobody else around. We had had the entire lake to ourselves. And the next day we were planning on going for a nice long hike. But as most things have, it seems like there was a small hiccup. Is that while we were eating our supper, another family came in to the exact area that we were at. And they were pulling a camper, and they felt like it would have helped their stay, I guess, to crank up a generator, and that ran all night. So that was certainly frustrating, I guess. It definitely ruined the peace and quiet that we were so enjoying. And even as a 4-year-old, I remember thinking that these dummies weren't camping the right way. But even in spite of them being there and kind of being annoying, we did something that stands out to me as one of the coolest things. And I've done it several times in different spots throughout my life, either just for my own personal benefit or to show other people what my dad showed me. But he got a spotlight. Back then they had candle ratings, and it was a 1 million candle spotlight. And he began shining it out across the lake. And I don't know if you know this, but when an alligator's eyes get shined with a light, they shine red, red as coals, really. And it's very creepy, but also really, really neat to see, especially when you can see 30 and 40 sets of eyes and one body of water. And back in Florida, that was not uncommon for us to be able to see that. And that night, I remember my dad counting up to 50 alligators, and just their beady little red eyes looking back at us. It was a stark reminder of how dangerous even the most beautiful places like that could be. I've said it a whole bunch of times over my life that alligators can be dangerous, but they're not, just evil creatures that want to hurt you. So that was a really, really cool thing that my dad showed me. It's always stuck with me. It's always stuck with me. After that, we went on to bed. Dad didn't sleep too well that night just because of all the noise from the generator. But he knew that he had promised me a hike for the next day. And so we did. We walked all through the swamp that surrounded the lake. I won't attempt to list out all of the different critters that we saw, but believe me when I say that we saw a lot. If you're familiar with Florida at all, you may have some guesses as to what we may have seen. Another cool thing was my dad let me play in the mud and found a couple of arrowheads while I was digging a little bit. Thinking back, he probably had some inclination of there being some there, and he may have had me playing in the mud. You know how parents do. They know something that kids don't. But whether or not he knew, I have no idea. But it was cool. My dad still has those arrowheads that we found. After the hike, it was definitely late afternoon. I remember it still being daylight. But my dad explained that with the generator still running, he wouldn't be able to get a good night's sleep, and that he really just wanted to go home. So we packed up. I say we, of course my dad did it all. We packed up and started the drive back home. I can guarantee you that I fell asleep pretty well immediately when we got in the truck, as I usually did in that truck, and slept the whole way home. But it was just a great trip. A good first memory for me. And I hope that you have a memory like that, whether it's with a dad, grandpa, cousin, uncle, whomever it is. It's just always something fun, enjoyable to look back on. And hopefully it has inspired you to take somebody else out for their first time. Because my dad always said something, and I didn't understand it till I became an adult. But I do now, and that's that at a certain point you get a whole lot more enjoyment out of other people having fun than you do from your own fun. So it was always a strange thing for me, but I get it now. So if you've never been camping yourself, go. Find somebody that can take you. For now, I think I'm just going to sit in peace and remember and think a little bit more about that camping trip my dad and I had. But thanks for hanging out with me.